Fleet Admiral Zexthal stood before the massive viewing window of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The stars stretched out before him like scattered diamonds on black cloth. His 4 arms rested behind his back in the traditional pose of Imperial authority. The scaled ridges along his neck displayed the deep purple color that showed his satisfaction. Behind him, the bridge hummed with quiet activity. Officers from a dozen conquered worlds worked at their stations. Some had fur, others had shells, and a few breathed different gases through special masks. But they all served the Kethver Empire now. They all knew their place. "Admiral," called Navigation Officer Tellman from his station. His voice carried the slight hiss that marked his reptilian species. "We are 3 days from the target system. The humans call it Sol." Zexthal turned from the window. His red eyes focused on the data screens that surrounded the bridge. Numbers and images flowed across them like water. Ship counts, weapon readings, and tactical plans filled the displays. "Show me the intelligence reports again," he commanded. The main screen lit up with images of the 3rd planet from the yellow star. Blue oceans and white clouds covered most of the surface. Green and brown landmasses broke through the blue like islands. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. "The species calls itself human," reported intelligence analyst Vexra. Her tentacles moved across her control panel with practiced ease. "They have been broadcasting electromagnetic signals for approximately 200 of their years. Very primitive communication methods." More images appeared on the screen. Humans walked on 2 legs and had only 2 arms each. Their skin came in different shades but was always smooth and soft-looking. They had hair on their heads but nowhere else. To Zexthal they looked fragile. "Military capabilities?" he asked. "Extremely limited," Vexra replied. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who had studied many species before conquest. "They have achieved basic space flight within their own system. Small settlements on their moon and the 4th planet. Primitive fusion drives power their largest vessels." The screen showed grainy images of human spacecraft. They were tiny compared to Imperial vessels, simple metal tubes with engines attached. Some carried what looked like basic weapons. Particle beams that could barely scratch Imperial hull plating. "Nuclear weapons exist but are limited to planetary surface use," Vexra continued. "No evidence of exotic matter manipulation. No gravitational control technology. No energy shields worth mentioning." Zexthal nodded slowly. It was exactly what he had expected. Another primitive species that had learned to split atoms and thought themselves advanced. They always believed they were special until the Empire arrived. "How many ships do they possess?" he asked. "Reconnaissance suggests fewer than 500 vessels total," came the reply. "Most are cargo haulers or small patrol craft. Their largest warships mass less than our smallest frigates." The Admiral's neck ridges shifted to a darker purple. Satisfaction mixed with mild disappointment. This would not be a glorious battle. It would be another routine conquest. The humans would see the Imperial fleet and surrender immediately, if they were smart. "What is our current force composition?" Zexthal asked his tactical officer. Sub-Admiral Kethian consulted his displays. His insectoid features remained expressionless as always, but his mandibles clicked softly as he spoke. 10,000 vessels, my lord. 400 dreadnoughts, 2,000 heavy cruisers, 3,000 destroyers, and 4,600 support craft." The numbers filled Zexthal with confidence. 10,000 ships that had conquered star systems from one side of the galaxy to the other. Ships that carried weapons capable of cracking planets. Ships crewed by warriors from hundreds of worlds. "The human population?" he asked. "Approximately 8 billion on the main world," Vexra reported. "Additional millions spread across their small colonies, all within easy bombardment range of our fleet." Standard Imperial doctrine was simple and effective. Jump into the system with overwhelming force, demand immediate surrender. If refused, demonstrate power by destroying a few military targets. Most species submitted after that display. Those that did not were conquered quickly through superior firepower and tactics. The Empire had perfected this method over 3,000 years. They had brought order to chaos across the galaxy. Species that once fought each other now worked together under Imperial rule. It was a gift they gave to primitive worlds like this human Earth. Estimated resistance duration? Zexthel asked, Kethion-S. Mandibles clicked faster as he calculated. Based on similar conquests, no more than 6 hours if they choose to fight. Most likely immediate surrender upon seeing our fleet. The Admiral walked closer to the main display. Earth rotated slowly. In the projection, cities glowed like small stars across the night side of the planet. Billions of lives going about their daily existence, unaware that their world was about to change forever. Tell me about their recent activities, he said. Vexra brought up new information. Standard patterns for a developing civilization. Increased industrial activity, expansion of their space presence. Some military exercises, but nothing concerning. Exercises? Zexthel-S attention sharpened slightly. Simple war games between their different political groups. They still fight among themselves, as primitive species often do. Nothing that would prepare them for Imperial doctrine. The Admiral nodded. Divided species were easier to conquer. United worlds sometimes put up more resistance, though the result was always the same in the end. Show me their largest military installation, he commanded. The screen changed to show a complex of buildings. In a cold-looking region of Earth, snow covered the ground around concrete structures. Vehicles moved between the buildings like insects. This appears to be their primary command center, Vexra explained, located in what they call North America. Minimal defensive capabilities. Standard kinetic barriers and primitive missile systems. More images flowed past. Human soldiers in bulky armor carrying simple projectile weapons. Vehicles that rolled on wheels or tracks instead of hovering. Aircraft that needed wings to fly instead of gravitational manipulation. Everything confirmed what the reports had told him. The humans were centuries behind Imperial technology. Maybe millennia behind in some areas. This would be one of the easier conquests in recent memory. Have they detected our approach? Zexthel asked. Negative, replied the sensor officer. Our stealth systems remain effective. They have some basic detection equipment in their outer system, but it cannot penetrate Imperial cloaking technology. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. His species had evolved from predators, and he still felt the old satisfaction of approaching unseen prey. The humans would have no warning until the Imperial fleet dropped stealth and announced their presence. Communications status? We have monitored their transmissions extensively, reported the communications officer. Multiple languages, but no encrypted military channels that we cannot decode. Their coordination methods are simple and direct. Zexthel studied the tactical displays one more time. Numbers and projections covered every screen. Fleet positions, weapon ranges, planetary, bombardment patterns. All of it pointed to the same conclusion. Begin final approach preparations, he ordered. All ships to battle stations in 12 hours. We will drop stealth at the edge of their detection range and proceed with standard conquest protocol. Yes, Admiral, came the chorus of replies from around the bridge. As the crew began their preparations, Zexthel returned to the viewing window. Somewhere ahead in the darkness was the yellow star called Sol. Orbiting that star was a blue world filled with 8 billion humans who did not know their lives were about to change forever. The Empire would offer them the same choice given to every species. Join willingly and keep their culture and basic freedoms. Resist and face the consequences of defying a power that spanned the galaxy. Most chose wisely. But as he stood there watching the stars, something nagged at the back of Zexthel-S mind. A small detail that did not quite fit. The intelligence. Reports were almost too perfect, too clean. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. Most primitive species had some surprises when the Empire arrived. Hidden weapons or unexpected tactics. Different social structures than anticipated. Something that made the conquest more interesting than the reports suggested. The humans seemed to have none of that. Every piece of intelligence fit together, like a puzzle made for children. Their technology, their military, their politics, their capabilities, all of it was exactly what a species at their development level should have. Zexthel shook his head. He was overthinking a simple conquest. The humans were primitive. The fleet was overwhelming. The outcome was certain. In a few days, Earth would join the hundreds of other worlds that served the Empire. He turned from the window and walked toward his private chambers. There were final reports to review and strategy meetings to attend. The conquest of humanity required the same careful planning as any other military operation. Behind him, the bridge continued its quiet efficiency. Officers monitored sensors and communications. Navigation plotted the final approach. Weapon systems ran diagnostic checks. Everything proceeded according to Imperial doctrine. None of them noticed the small anomaly in the long-range sensor data. A brief contact that appeared for just a moment before vanishing again. Something that might have been a ship or might have been space debris. Something far beyond where human technology should be able to reach. The contact was logged automatically and filed with thousands of other minor sensor readings. Just another piece of data in the vast flow of information that kept the Imperial fleet running. In 3 days, the Empire would arrive at Earth and begin the conquest of humanity. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of Titan Station, watching Jupiter's swirling clouds through the reinforced viewing port. The giant planet's surface moved in patterns that had fascinated humans for centuries. But today she was not thinking about the beauty of the gas giant. Today she was thinking about the 10,000 alien ships that would arrive in less than 48 hours behind her. The command center buzzed with quiet activity. Dozens of technicians sat at workstations, their screens filled with data streams from across the solar system. Numbers flowed like rivers across the displays. Ship positions, energy readings, communication intercepts, and tactical updates painted. A picture that would have terrified most civilizations. "Dr. Vasquez," called Lieutenant Morrison from his station. His young face was tense with concentration. "Deep space monitoring confirms the Imperial fleet is maintaining standard approach vector. No deviation from predicted course." Elena turned from the window and walked to the central command platform. At 62 years old, she moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent decades working in low-gravity environments. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her dark eyes held the calm focus of a person who had been preparing for this moment for most of her adult life. "Estimated arrival time?" she asked. 46 hours, 18 minutes, Morrison replied. "They're slowing down as expected, probably preparing for their standard intimidation approach." Elena nodded. The Terra Defense Initiative had studied alien conquest patterns for decades. Every species the Empire had conquered faced the same basic strategy. Overwhelming force, psychological pressure, and the offer of surrender before violence began. It was effective because it was simple and brutal. "Signal strength from the monitoring stations?" she asked another technician. "All systems green," came the reply. "Network 7 through Network 15 are tracking the fleet continuously. The aliens still show no awareness of our surveillance capability." Elena allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's deep space monitoring network was one of their greatest achievements and their most carefully guarded secret. Stations hidden in asteroid fields throughout the outer system had been watching alien movements for over 30 years. The Empire had no idea they were being observed. "Dr. Vasquez," called Communications Officer Chun from across the room. "Incoming." "Message from Terra Command, Priority Alpha." Elena walked to the secure communication station and placed her hand on the biometric scanner. The screen lit up with the face of General Sarah Chun, the military commander of Earth's defense forces. Despite sharing a last name, the two women were not related, though they had worked together for over a decade. "Elena," the general said without preamble, "final confirmation from our assets in the Centauri region. The Empire believes we are completely unaware of their approach. Their intelligence reports radar technology at early fusion age level." "Excellent," Elena replied, "All manufacturing stations report ready status." "Jupiter shipyards completed the last batch 6 hours ago," General Chun confirmed. "Final count is 847 vessels, all hidden and waiting. The Empire expects to face maybe 50 human ships. They're going to get quite a surprise." Elena felt a mix of satisfaction and nervousness. For over a century, humanity had been building toward this moment. Ever since the first alien signals had been detected in the 2150s, Earth's greatest minds had been preparing for eventual contact. When that contact had proven hostile, the preparation had become urgent. What about the deception protocol? Elena asked. "Performing perfectly," General Chun said with obvious pride. "Our fake bases on Mars and Luna are broadcasting exactly the energy signatures the Empire expects from primitive human technology. Their scouts have been watching us for months, and everything they see confirms we're helpless." The screen changed to show tactical displays of the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of Imperial ships as they moved toward Earth. Blue dots showed the apparent positions of human forces. To any observer, it looked like a massive alien fleet approaching. A barely defended world, but Elena knew the truth. The blue dots were decoys and obsolete equipment deliberately positioned to be seen. The real human fleet was hidden in places the Empire would never think to look. "Show me the Jupiter facilities," Elena requested. The display changed to show the massive construction platforms hidden deep within Jupiter's atmosphere. For decades, automated factories had been building ships using resources harvested from the gas giant's endless clouds. The vessels were unlike anything humanity had ever built before. Sleek, powerful, and equipped with technologies that pushed the boundaries of physics. "Beautiful, aren't they?" General Chun said. "Project Prometheus exceeded all expectations. The new ships mass half what our old designs did, but carry 3 times the firepower." Elena studied the images of humanity's secret fleet. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, built using technologies developed specifically to counter alien capabilities. Quantum field generators replaced traditional engines. Exotic matter manipulation systems provided both power and weapons. And most importantly, every ship was equipped with the same stealth systems that had kept them hidden for so long. "The aliens have no idea we can build ships like these," Elena said. "None at all," General Chun confirmed. "Their intelligence reports show they think our most advanced ships are the old fusion drive cruisers we deliberately let them observe. They're expecting to fight technology from 50 years ago." Elena turned to look at her team in the command center. These men and women represented the best of humanity's scientific and military minds. They had spent years developing the strategies and technologies that would soon be put to the ultimate test. Each of them knew that failure meant the end of human independence. "Dr. Vasquez," called tactical analyst Rodriguez from his station. "I'm seeing movement in Sector 7. The Imperial fleet is beginning to deploy in formation." Elena walked to his workstation and studied the displays. The alien ships were spreading out in the classic pattern used for planetary siege operations. Dreadnoughts in the center, cruisers and destroyers forming protective screens, support vessels in the rear. It was exactly what Earth strategists had expected. "They're not even trying to hide their intentions," Rodriguez observed. "Standard conquest formation. They plan to surround Earth and demand surrender." "Let them," Elena said calmly. "The more confident they are, the better our chances of complete surprise." She returned to the central platform and activated the master communication system. Instantly, she was connected to defense stations throughout the solar system. Voices from Mars, Luna, the asteroid belt, and the outer planets confirmed their readiness. "All stations, this is Terra Command Central," Elena announced. "Imperial fleet will reach engagement range in approximately 45 hours. All units are to maintain concealment protocols until Phase 1 activation. Acknowledged by stations." One by one, the acknowledgments came in. Hidden bases throughout the solar system confirmed they were ready. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids reported full power. Stealth ships hiding in planetary shadows confirmed their positions. Everything humanity had built in preparation for this moment was functioning perfectly. "Dr. Vasquez," Morrison called from his monitoring station. "I'm picking up increased communication activity from the Imperial fleet. They're probably coordinating their final approach." Elena nodded. The Empire's communications were encrypted, but humanity had been intercepting and analyzing their signals for years. Computer systems developed specifically for this purpose could decode most Imperial transmissions in real time. "What are they saying?" she asked. Morrison consulted his translation screens. "Standard pre-conquest coordination. Fleet positions. Target assignments, surrender demand protocols. Nothing unusual. They're treating this as a routine operation." Elena felt another surge of satisfaction. The Empire's confidence would be their weakness. They had conquered so many worlds using the same tactics that they could not imagine facing serious resistance. Humanity was about to teach them a very painful lesson about underestimating their opponents. "Dr. Vasquez," called sensor technician Park from her station. "I'm detecting probe launches from the Imperial fleet. Looks like they're beginning detailed reconnaissance of Earth and the inner system." "Let them look," Elena replied. "Make sure all deception systems are at full power. I want those probes to see exactly what we want them to see." The deception systems were another of humanity's greatest achievements. Sophisticated holographic projectors and false signal generators created the appearance of primitive human defenses. The alien probes would report back that Earth was protected by obsolete weapons and ancient technology. Elena walked back to the observation window and stared out at Jupiter's endless storms. Somewhere in those swirling clouds, the largest manufacturing operation in human history was putting the finishing touches on humanity's secret weapon. Ships that would redefine space warfare were waiting in the darkness, ready to emerge when the moment was right. "Incoming transmission from Earth," announced Communications Officer Chung. "President Martinez wants to speak with you personally." Elena returned to the secure communication station. The president's face appeared on the screen, showing the strain of the past few weeks. The weight of leading humanity through its greatest crisis was visible in his eyes. "Elena," he said quietly, "tell me we're ready for this." "We're as ready as we can be, Mr. President," she replied honestly. "Every simulation shows we have a significant advantage if we achieve surprise. The Empire has no idea what they're walking into." President Martinez nodded slowly. "And if we fail?" Elena considered her words carefully. The president needed honesty, not false comfort. "If we fail, sir, then humanity will either serve the Empire or be destroyed. There won't be a second chance." "Then we don't fail," the president said with quiet determination. "Do whatever you need to do, Elena. The entire species is counting on you and your team." The transmission ended, leaving Elena alone with the weight of 8 billion lives resting on her shoulders. She had helped design every system, planned every strategy, and prepared for every possible outcome. But until the shooting started, no one could be completely certain how the battle would unfold. "Dr. Vasquez," Morrison called urgently. "The Imperial fleet is beginning active scanning of the inner system. Deep penetration sensors, military grade." Elena hurried to his station and studied the sensor readings. The aliens were finally taking a serious look at human defenses. This was the critical moment when their deception would either hold or fail completely. "All deception systems responding normally," reported Park. "The aliens are seeing standard defensive installations around Earth and Luna, primitive fusion. Reactors, basic particle beam weapons, simple missile systems. Everything matches our projected technology level." Elena held her breath as the alien scans continued. Decades of preparation would be wasted if the Empire discovered the truth too early. The entire strategy depended on them believing humanity was helpless until the trap was sprung. "Scan complete," Morrison announced after several tense minutes. "Imperial communications indicate they are satisfied with reconnaissance results. No indication they detected anything unusual." Elena exhaled slowly. The deception was holding. The Empire still believed they faced a primitive species with obsolete technology. In less than 2 days, they would learn how wrong they were. All stations, she announced over the general communication system. Imperial reconnaissance has been completed. They remain unaware of our true capabilities. All units maintain concealment until Phase 1 activation. We are go for Operation Prometheus. Across the solar system, humanity's defenders acknowledged the order. Hidden ships powered down to minimum emissions. Weapons platforms continued their masquerade as space debris. And deep within Jupiter's atmosphere, the final preparations for humanity's surprise began. The Empire was coming to conquer Earth, but Earth was ready to fight back. Fleet Admiral Zexthal stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion as his massive fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 10,000 Imperial warships materialized from the void like a swarm of metallic predators. The sight never failed to fill him with pride. No civilization in the galaxy could stand against such overwhelming force. Fleet status report, he commanded. All vessels accounted for and in formation, replied Sub-Admiral Kethion. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Dreadnoughts maintaining central position. Cruiser screens deployed. Support vessels secured in rear guard formation. Zexthal nodded as he studied the tactical displays. His fleet stretched across millions of kilometers of space, a testament to Imperial power and efficiency. Each ship bristled with weapons capable of shattering planets. Together, they represented the unstoppable might of a civilization that had conquered half the galaxy. Begin standard reconnaissance sweep, he ordered. I want complete tactical analysis of human defenses within 6 hours. The sensor arrays of 100 ships turned toward the inner system. Energy beams swept across space, probing every asteroid, analyzing every energy signature, mapping every human installation from Earth to the outer planets. Admiral, called intelligence analyst Vexra from her station. Preliminary scans confirm our earlier intelligence. Human defenses are concentrated around their homeworld and primary moon. Technology appears consistent with early fusion age. Civilization. On the main display, a three-dimensional map of the Sol system appeared. Red markers showed Imperial fleet positions at the system's edge. Blue markers indicated human defensive installations around Earth and Luna. The comparison was almost laughable. Dozens of human positions against 10,000 Imperial ships. Show me their largest military installations, Zexthal commanded. The display zoomed in on Earth's moon. Several structures appeared to be missile-launching platforms and particle beam installations. They looked crude and simple compared to Imperial technology. Fusion reactors provided power instead of exotic matter generators. Kinetic barriers replaced energy shields. Estimated defensive capability? The Admiral asked. Minimal threat to Imperial vessels, reported Tactical Officer Mortek. Their most powerful weapons appear to be basic particle beam arrays. Insufficient energy output to penetrate Imperial hull plating. Missile systems use primitive chemical propulsion. Zexthal allowed himself a moment of disappointment. Another conquest that would be over before it truly began. The humans would see his fleet and surrender immediately. There would be no glorious battle, no test of Imperial tactics, no opportunity for his officers to prove themselves in combat. Communications, he called. Prepare the standard conquest broadcast. We will offer them the traditional terms. Yes, Admiral, came the reply from across the bridge, but before the communications officer could complete his preparations, something unexpected happened. A transmission originated from the blue planet below. It was directed at the Imperial fleet on standard diplomatic frequencies. Admiral, reported the communications officer with surprise in his voice. The humans are attempting to contact us. Zexthal's neck ridges shifted to show interest. Most species waited until they were offered terms before trying to communicate. The humans seemed to be taking initiative. Perhaps they would be more interesting than expected. Put it through, he commanded. The main screen changed to show the interior of what appeared to be a human government building. A middle-aged human male sat behind a simple wooden desk. His dark hair was graying at the temples, and his brown eyes held no fear despite facing the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "I am President Martinez of the United Earth Federation," the human said in clear, unaccented galactic standard. "I am authorized to speak for all of humanity." Zexthel stepped forward so the human could see him clearly. His forearms spread in the traditional Imperial gesture of authority. "I am Fleet Admiral Zexthel of the Kethver Empire. You will surrender your world immediately and submit to Imperial rule." President Martinez studied the alien admiral for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone on the Imperial bridge. He smiled. "No," the human said simply. The word hung in the air like a physical object. In 3,000 years of conquest, Zexthel had heard many responses to Imperial demands, pleas for mercy, desperate negotiations, offers of tribute, threats of resistance, but never had any species leader responded with such calm certainty. "You do not understand," Zexthel said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "We offer you the choice to join the Empire peacefully. Refuse and we will take your world by force." "I understand perfectly," President Martinez replied. His smile never wavered. "You want us to surrender because you have 10,000 ships and think we're helpless. You're wrong about the helpless part." Zexthel felt the first stirring of unease. The human's confidence was unsettling. Leaders of primitive worlds usually showed fear when faced with Imperial might. This human seemed almost amused by the situation. "Show them," Zexthel commanded his tactical officer. "Give them a demonstration of Imperial power." On the screen, President Martinez leaned back in his chair. "Go ahead," he said. "We're waiting." Sub-Admiral Kethian activated the fleet's weapon systems. A single dreadnought fired a demonstration shot at an uninhabited asteroid in the outer system. The energy beam crossed millions of kilometers in seconds and struck the space rock with the force of a nuclear weapon. The asteroid vaporized instantly, leaving only glowing debris. "That is the fate of worlds that resist the Empire," Zexthel announced. President Martinez watched the demonstration with interest rather than terror. "Impressive," he said. "Our turn." Before anyone on the Imperial bridge could ask what the human meant, their sensors detected an energy surge from the inner system. Something was powering up near Jupiter, something big. "Admiral," called the sensor officer with confusion in his voice, "I'm detecting massive energy readings from the fifth planet. Power output is... That cannot be correct." "What are you reading?" Zexthel demanded. "Energy signatures consistent with exotic matter reactors. But the humans don't have that technology. It's impossible." On the screen, President Martinez continued to smile. "You might want to look behind you," he suggested. Zexthel spun toward the rear displays just as proximity alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. The space behind his fleet, which had been empty moments before, was suddenly filled with ships. Hundreds of sleek, dark vessels had appeared as if from nowhere. They moved with impossible grace, sliding between Imperial formations like shadows made solid. "Where did they come from?" Zexthel shouted over the noise of alarms and confused reports. "Unknown, Admiral," replied the sensor officer. "They were not there 30 seconds ago. Our scans showed empty space." The human ships were unlike anything in Imperial databases. They were smaller than Imperial dreadnoughts but larger than cruisers. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. And most disturbing of all, they were moving without any visible means of propulsion. "Stealth technology," Vexra reported with growing alarm. "Advanced stealth technology. More sophisticated than anything in Imperial archives." On the main screen, President Martinez spoke again. "For the past century, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We knew someone like you would come eventually. We've been ready for a long time." "Impossible," Zexthel declared. "Our intelligence reports show you are a primitive species. Basic fusion technology, simple weapons. You cannot have ships like these." "Your intelligence reports showed you exactly what we wanted you to see," President Martinez replied. Did you really think a species capable of quantum communication wouldn't notice you watching us? Zexthel felt his world shifting beneath him. Quantum communication was theoretical even for the Empire. If the humans possessed such technology, then everything his analysts had told him was wrong. "Admiral," Kethion called urgently. "The human ships are moving into attack positions. They're surrounding our formation?" The tactical display painted a picture that sent fear through every Imperial officer. The human fleet was not attacking randomly. They were executing a coordinated maneuver that demonstrated perfect knowledge of Imperial tactics. Somehow, they knew exactly how the Empire's forces would be positioned. "How many ships?" Zexthel asked. "Difficult to determine," came the reply. "Their stealth technology is interfering with our sensors. Estimate between 800 and 1,000 vessels. Still outnumbered 10 to 1, but the humans were moving like they expected to win. Their formations were too precise, their timing too perfect. They had been planning this battle for longer than seemed possible." "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving targeting data from multiple sources throughout the system. The humans have been tracking every ship in our fleet since we arrived." President Martinez spoke again from the screen. "We know the location, shield frequency, and structural weaknesses of every vessel in your fleet. Our targeting computers have been analyzing your ships for hours. You came here to conquer a defenseless world. Instead, you found 8 billion humans who have spent a century preparing to fight you. The first shots came from the darkness near Jupiter. Beams of energy unlike anything an Imperial experience lanced across space toward the Imperial fleet. But these were not the crude particle beams the reconnaissance had detected. These weapons seemed to tear holes in space itself. The Imperial cruiser Righteous Fury, veteran of a dozen conquests, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next moment there was only empty space where a kilometer-long warship had been. "What was that?" Zexthel demanded. "Unknown weapon type," reported the science officer. "The energy signature suggests some form of exotic matter manipulation. The cruiser's matter was apparently converted to energy at the quantum level." More shots came from the human ships. Each beam that struck an Imperial vessel resulted in the same impossible outcome. Massive warships simply vanished from existence. No explosions, no debris, just empty space where proud Imperial vessels had been. Moments before, "All ships, return fire," Zexthel commanded. "Destroy these human vessels immediately." The Imperial fleet responded with overwhelming firepower. Thousands of energy beams and missile salvos targeted the human ships. But something was wrong. The shots that should have destroyed the enemy vessels passed through them harmlessly. "They're not there," the sensor officer reported with disbelief. "The ships we're targeting are not in those positions." "Some kind of advanced holographic projection." "Then where are they?" Zexthel shouted. His answer came in the form of energy beams striking Imperial ships from entirely different directions. The human vessels were using some form of technology that made them appear to be somewhere they were not. Imperial weapons fired at illusions while the real ships struck from unexpected angles. In the first 10 minutes of combat, the Imperial fleet lost over 600 ships. Vessels that had conquered star systems disappeared into nothingness. Crews that had served the Empire for decades were gone in flashes of impossible light. "Admiral," Kethion called with barely controlled panic, "we need to withdraw immediately. We're being slaughtered." But Zexthel was staring at the tactical display in shock. This was not how conquests were supposed to proceed. The Empire had overwhelming numbers and superior technology. They were the predators, not the prey. Yet somehow, impossibly, they were being hunted. "How is this possible?" he whispered. On the screen, President Martinez answered as if he had heard the question. "You spent 3,000 years conquering primitive species that couldn't fight back. We spent 100 years studying your tactics and building weapons specifically designed to kill your ships. You came here expecting to face cave dwellers with sticks. Instead, you found humans. Another wave of impossible weapons fire swept through the Imperial formation. Dreadnoughts that had reduced planets to ash vanished like morning mist. The most powerful fleet ever assembled was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had thought was helpless. Zexthel realized with growing horror that he was watching the end of Imperial invincibility. For 3 millennia, the Empire had never faced serious resistance. They had grown complacent, assuming their technological superiority was absolute. The humans had just proven them wrong in the most devastating way possible. Captain Sarah Kim gripped the command chair of the Earth defense ship Defiance as her vessel emerged from the shadow of Europa. Around her, the bridge crew worked with deadly efficiency, their faces lit by the glow of tactical displays showing the systematic destruction of the Imperial fleet. "Target acquired," reported Weapons Officer Lieutenant Torres. "Imperial Dreadnought Cosmic Dominion, bearing 27 Mark V, range 800,000 kilometers. Fire!" Sarah ordered without hesitation, the Defiance's quantum disruptor. Cannon charged with a sound like reality tearing. A beam of twisted space-time lanced across the void and struck the alien dreadnought. The massive Imperial warship, which had survived a dozen planetary bombardments, simply ceased to exist. Matter converted to energy in a cascade reaction that left only empty space and fading radiation. "Target destroyed," Torres reported. "That's our 15th kill." Sarah nodded grimly. Around them, the battle raged across millions of cubic kilometers of space. Humanity's hidden fleet had emerged from concealment throughout the solar system, striking the Imperial forces from every direction. What the aliens had expected to be a simple conquest had become a massacre. "Communications," Sarah called. "Status report from the fleet. All human vessels reporting minimal damage," came the reply. "Imperial losses now exceed 60% of their total force. Remaining enemy ships are attempting to withdraw from the system." But withdrawal was not going to be simple for the surviving Imperial vessels. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, and part of that preparation involved making sure none of the aliens would escape to warn their empire about Earth's true capabilities. "Helm," Sarah ordered. "Set course for the retreating Imperial formation, maximum acceleration." The Defiance leaped forward with impossible speed. Its exotic matter drive bent space around the ship, allowing it to cover vast distances in seconds. The technology was far beyond anything the Empire possessed, developed specifically to hunt down fleeing enemy vessels. On the main display, Sarah watched as other human ships moved to intercept the retreating aliens. The Imperial fleet was fast, but humanity's vessels were faster. More importantly, they had been positioned throughout the solar system specifically to prevent any escape. "Captain," called sensor operator Chun from her station. "I'm detecting communications from the Imperial flagship. They're trying to send a faster-than-light message to their home territory." Sarah's eyes hardened. That could not be allowed to happen. If the Empire learned about humanity's true capabilities, they would return with a larger fleet and better preparation. The element of surprise would be lost forever. "Jam all Imperial communications," she ordered. "No signals leave this system." "Already." "On it, Captain," replied Communications Officer Park. "Our quantum interference generators are blocking all faster-than-light transmissions. The aliens can't contact anyone outside the solar system." The technology that made this possible was another of humanity's secret weapons. While the Empire relied on conventional faster-than-light communication methods, Earth scientists had developed quantum entanglement networks that could disrupt any signal transmission. The Imperial fleet was cut off from all outside contact. On the tactical display, the surviving alien ships were scattering in all directions, desperately trying to escape the solar system. But humanity had anticipated this reaction. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt activated, revealing themselves as the fleeing Imperial vessels approached. "This is Asteroid Base 7, came a voice over the communications network. "We have Imperial cruisers entering our engagement zone. Request permission to fire." "Permission granted," Sarah replied. "Destroy all Imperial vessels attempting to flee." The asteroid bases had been one of humanity's most ambitious projects. Over 50 years, mining operations throughout the asteroid belt had been secretly converted into massive weapons platforms. From the outside, they looked like normal asteroid mining facilities. In reality, they were fortresses armed with the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built. The fleeing Imperial cruisers found themselves facing a wall of devastating firepower. Quantum disruptor beams and exotic matter missiles turned proud warships into expanding clouds of debris. The aliens had nowhere to run. "Captain," Torres reported with satisfaction, "Asteroid Defense Grid is reporting successful engagement. No Imperial vessels have escaped the inner system." But even as the immediate threat was being eliminated, Sarah knew the battle was far from over. The Imperial fleet had been massive, and despite horrific losses, thousands of alien ships were still operational. Many were damaged and retreating, but they remained dangerous. "Long-range sensors," she called. "Show me the overall tactical situation." The main display changed to show the entire solar system. Red dots marked the positions of surviving Imperial ships. Blue dots showed human vessels moving to intercept them. It looked like a three-dimensional chess game played across billions of kilometers of space. "The aliens are trying to regroup near Neptune," reported Chun. "Looks like they're planning a coordinated jump to faster-than-light speed." Sarah studied the display. The Imperial ships were indeed gathering at the edge of the solar system, probably hoping to escape together in a single massive jump. But humanity had prepared for this possibility as well. "Signal the outer system defense platforms," she ordered. "Activate the gravity well generators." Throughout the outer solar system, hidden installations that had masqueraded as scientific research stations for decades revealed their true purpose. Massive exotic matter reactors powered up, creating artificial gravity fields that made faster-than-light travel impossible within the solar system. The Imperial ships trying to escape suddenly found themselves trapped. Their faster-than-light drives simply would not function within the artificial gravity wells. They were stuck in the Sol system with nowhere to run. "This is Admiral Vasquez aboard the Terra defense ship Prometheus," came a voice over the fleet communication network. "All Imperial vessels are now trapped within the system. Begin final assault operations." Sarah felt a surge of pride as she heard the Admiral's voice. Elena Vasquez had been promoted to military command when the shooting started, and she was proving to be as brilliant a combat leader as she had been a scientist. The final assault began with precision that would have impressed military strategists throughout the galaxy. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, their actions guided by the quantum communication networks that linked every vessel in the fleet. The Imperial forces, cut off from their own command structure, could only react to attacks they could not predict. "Captain," called Torres urgently, "Imperial dreadnought turning toward us. They're charging weapons." Sarah glanced at the tactical display. The alien ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Defiance. Under normal circumstances, a human vessel would have no chance against such a powerful opponent. But these were not normal circumstances. "Evasive maneuvers," she ordered. "Activate stealth fields." The Defiance seemed to flicker and fade from existence as its advanced stealth systems engaged. To Imperial sensors, the human ship had simply vanished. The alien dreadnought fired its weapons at empty space while the Defiance moved to a new attack position. "Stealth field holding," reported the tactical officer. "The aliens have lost target lock." "Bring us around for a kill shot," Sarah commanded. "Target their reactor core." The Defiance moved like a ghost through space, invisible to Imperial sensors but perfectly able to target the enemy vessel. The quantum disruptor cannon charged once more, its exotic matter focusing a ray creating a beam that could tear apart the fundamental forces holding matter together. "Firing," Torres announced. The beam struck the Imperial dreadnought precisely where its exotic matter reactor was located. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. The alien ship's power source destabilized, creating a cascade reaction that consumed the entire vessel from the inside out. Another proud Imperial warship was reduced to glowing particles. "Target destroyed," Torres reported. That brings our total to 16 kills. Across the solar system, similar scenes were playing out as humanity's fleet hunted down the surviving Imperial vessels. The aliens were fighting desperately now, no longer trying to conquer but simply trying to survive. But survival was not an option humanity was prepared to offer them. "Captain," Chun called from her sensor station. "I'm detecting escape pods launching from damaged Imperial ships. It looks like some of the aliens are abandoning their vessels." Sarah considered this development. Taking prisoners had not been part of the original battle plan, but intelligence from captured aliens could be valuable. However, allowing any Imperial personnel to survive also carried risks. "Signal the fleet," she decided. "Capture any escape pods that contain high-ranking officers, destroy the rest." It was a harsh decision, but Sarah knew it was necessary. The Empire had come to Sol with the intention of conquering or destroying humanity. They could not be allowed to return home with information about Earth's defenses. "Captain," Torres reported. "Final count coming in from Fleet Command. Imperial losses now exceed 90%. Fewer than 1,000 enemy vessels remain operational." The numbers were staggering. In less than 4 hours, humanity had destroyed 9,000 Imperial warships. The most powerful fleet ever assembled had been reduced to scattered, survivors desperately trying to hide in the outer darkness of the solar system. "What's the status of the Imperial flagship?" Sarah asked. "Still operational, but heavily damaged," Chun replied. "It's trying to reach the edge of the gravity well field, probably hoping to escape when the field generators are powered down." Sarah studied the tactical display. The Imperial flagship was indeed limping toward the system's edge, trailing atmosphere and debris, but it would never reach safety. Humanity's pursuit ships were already moving to intercept it. "Signal Admiral Vasquez," Sarah ordered. "Request permission to pursue the flagship." "Permission granted," came the immediate reply. "But I want the ship's commander taken alive if possible. We need to know what the Empire was planning after they conquered Earth." The Defiance changed course and accelerated toward the fleeing Imperial flagship. Around them, the last act of the battle was playing out as human ships methodically hunted down the remaining alien vessels. Soon, the Sol system would be clear of Imperial forces. But Sarah knew this victory was only the beginning. The Empire was vast, controlling thousands of star systems across the galaxy. When this fleet failed to return, they would eventually send investigators. Humanity needed to be ready for whatever came next. "Time to intercept the flagship?" she asked. 17 minutes at current speed, the helm officer replied. Sarah settled back in her command chair and watched the stars wheel past the main display. 17 minutes to capture the alien admiral who had come to conquer Earth. After that, humanity would begin preparing for the Empire's response to their devastating defeat. The hunters had indeed become the hunted, but the hunt was far from over. Fleet Admiral Zexthal sat in the detention cell aboard the human ship Prometheus, his forearms chained with restraints made from materials he did not recognize. Through the transparent wall, he could see the corridor where human guards walked, past with casual confidence. 3 days had passed since his flagship had been captured, and he was still struggling to understand what had happened to his fleet. 10,000 ships. The most powerful armada in Imperial history, gone, destroyed by a species the Empire had classified as primitive cave dwellers. The mathematical impossibility of it made his head hurt. The cell door opened with a soft hiss, and Dr. Elena Vasquez entered. She wore the uniform of a human admiral now, though Zexthal remembered her introduction as a scientist. Her gray hair was pulled back in the same simple style, and her dark eyes held the same calm intelligence that had been so unsettling during his interrogations. "Admiral," she said, settling into the chair across from him, "I hope you're finding your accommodations acceptable." Zexthal studied the human woman who had orchestrated his defeat. She looked unremarkable by Imperial standards. No natural weapons, no enhanced physical capabilities, no obvious signs of technological augmentation. Yet she had outmaneuvered the finest military minds in the galaxy. "How?" he asked. Simply. Dr. Vasquez tilted her head slightly. How did we defeat your fleet? How did we prepare so effectively? How did we hide our capabilities for so long? You'll need to be more specific. All of it, Zexthel replied. Your species achieved faster than light travel only decades ago. The Empire has been conquering worlds for 3,000 years. How did you build weapons that can destroy our most powerful? Ships? Time, Dr. Vasquez said simply. And the knowledge that you were coming. She activated a small device, and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed the Sol system as it had been 150 years ago. Primitive chemical rockets carried tiny human craft between Earth and its moon. Simple radio. Signals carried messages at the speed of light. In 2157, we detected the first alien signals, Dr. Vasquez explained. Not from your empire, but from one of the species you had recently conquered. The signals told us everything we needed to know about what was waiting for us among the stars. The display changed to show intercepted transmissions. Fragments of communications from dozens of worlds, all telling the same story. The Kethver Empire had arrived with overwhelming force. Resistance was futile. Surrender was the only option for survival. We realized that contact with your empire was inevitable, Dr. Vasquez continued. So we had a choice. We could wait and hope you would be friendly, or we could prepare for the worst. Humanity chose to prepare. Zexthel watched as the holographic display showed Earth's transformation over the following century. What appeared to be normal industrial and technological development was actually the largest military preparation in human history. Every space program, every scientific advancement, every colonial expansion had been designed with one goal in mind. You spent over a century preparing for a single battle? He asked with disbelief. We spent over a century preparing to survive as a free species, Dr. Vasquez corrected. The battle was just the final test of that preparation. The display showed the hidden shipyards within Jupiter's atmosphere, the weapons platforms disguised as asteroid mines, the quantum communication networks that had coordinated humanity's defense. It was the most elaborate deception in galactic history. Your intelligence reports, Zexthel said slowly. They were all false. Carefully constructed to show you exactly what we wanted you to see, Dr. Vasquez confirmed. We knew you were watching. Yes, we knew you would study our capabilities before attacking. So we made sure your studies would reach the wrong conclusions. The implications were staggering. The Empire's intelligence network, refined through thousands of conquests, had been completely fooled by a species they had considered primitive. Every assumption, every tactical plan, every strategic decision had been based on false information. The technology, Zexthel pressed, your quantum disruptor weapons, your stealth systems, your exotic matter drives. These are not technologies a young civilization should possess. Dr. Vasquez smiled slightly. You're assuming we developed them the same way you developed your technology. The Empire grew powerful through conquest, absorbing the knowledge of defeated civilizations. Humanity took a different approach. The display changed to show massive research facilities hidden throughout the solar system. Laboratories where thousands of scientists had worked for decades on theoretical physics that pushed the boundaries of known science. We focused everything on understanding the fundamental forces of the universe, Dr. Vasquez explained. While your empire was conquering worlds, our best minds were unraveling the secrets of quantum mechanics and exotic matter manipulation. We had time to think, to experiment, to develop solutions your scientists never considered. Zexthel felt something he had never experienced before, fear, not fear of death or pain, but fear of the implications. If humanity could develop such advanced technology in isolation, what did that say about the Empire's assumed technological superiority? Your fleet, he said. How many ships do you actually possess? The fleet that destroyed your armada represents approximately 10% of our current naval capacity. Dr. Vasquez replied casually. The number hit Zexthel like a physical blow. If the humans had used only a fraction of their military strength to destroy 10,000 Imperial ships, then the Empire faced a threat unlike anything in its history. Impossible, he whispered. You keep using that word, Dr. Vasquez observed. Yet here we are. The cell door opened again, and President Martinez entered. He looked older than he had during the initial broadcast, the weight of recent events visible in his face. But his eyes still held the same calm confidence that had so unsettled the Imperial Admiral. Admiral Zexthal, the President said with formal politeness, I wanted to speak with you personally before we send you home. Home? Zexthal looked between the two humans with confusion. You're releasing me? In a manner of speaking, President Martinez replied. He activated another holographic display, this one showing a single intact Imperial ship surrounded by human vessels. Your flagship has been repaired and restocked. You'll be taking a message back to your empire. Zexthal stared at the display in disbelief. The humans were going to let him go. After destroying his entire fleet, after capturing him and learning everything they wanted to know about Imperial tactics and technology, they were simply going to send him home. Why? He asked. Because you need to deliver a message, President Martinez said simply. And because we want the Empire to understand exactly what happened here. Dr. Vasquez activated her device again, and a new recording began to play. President. Martinez sat behind his desk in the Oval Office, addressing the camera with the same calm authority he had shown during the battle. To the leaders of the Kethver Empire, the recorded president began, your fleet came to our system with the intention of conquest. You believed you faced a primitive species incapable of serious resistance. You were wrong. The recording continued, laying out the details of humanity's preparation and capabilities. Technical specifications of human weapons were displayed, alongside star charts showing the true extent of human expansion throughout the galaxy. It was a complete intelligence briefing that would revolutionize Imperial understanding of their new neighbors. We are not a species that seeks conquest or domination, the recorded president continued. We have no desire to expand our territory through force or to impose our values on other civilizations. But we will not submit to slavery, and we will not accept the destruction of our independence. The recording showed images of the destroyed Imperial fleet, the wreckage of 10,000 ships drifting through space around Earth. It was a demonstration of power that would shock the Empire's leadership. This message serves as both an explanation and a warning, President Martinez said from the recording. Humanity is prepared to defend itself against any threat. We have the technology to destroy your fleets and the determination to use it if necessary. But we would prefer to coexist peacefully. The recording ended with simple terms. The Empire would acknowledge humanity's sovereignty over their territory. Trade and diplomatic relations could be established if desired. But any attempt at conquest would result in the complete destruction of any Imperial forces that entered human space. You expect the Empire to simply accept this? Zexthal asked. To abandon 3,000 years of expansion and dominance? We expect the Empire to be intelligent enough to recognize reality, President Martinez replied. You came here with the most powerful fleet in Imperial history. It no longer exists. That fact will not change no matter how many more fleets you send. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward in her chair. Admiral, you've seen our capabilities. You know what we can do. Your choice is simple. Convince your leaders to accept peaceful coexistence or watch the Empire tear itself apart trying to conquer a species that cannot be conquered. Zexthal sat in silence for several minutes, processing everything he had learned. The Empire had built its power on the assumption that technological superiority and overwhelming force could solve any problem. Humanity had just proven that assumption was false. How do I explain this to the Imperial Council? He asked finally. How do I make them understand that a species we barely knew existed has made our entire military doctrine obsolete? Tell them the truth, President Martinez said simply. Show them the recording. Give them the technical data we're providing. Let them draw their own conclusions. The implications were staggering. If the Empire accepted humanity's terms, It would represent the first time in 3 millennia that they had been forced to acknowledge another species as an equal. If they rejected the terms and continued attacking, they would face a war against an opponent that had already proven capable of destroying their fleets. There will be factions within the Empire that will never accept this, Zexville warned. Military leaders who will demand vengeance for the loss of this fleet. Politicians who will see compromise as weakness. Then those factions will learn. The same lesson you learned, Dr. Vasquez said calmly. Physics doesn't care about politics or pride. Our weapons work the same way regardless of who we're fighting. President Martinez stood and moved toward the door. Your ship will be ready for departure in 6 hours. We've included detailed star charts to help you navigate back to Imperial space without encountering any of our patrol fleets. Patrol fleets? Zexville asked. Did you think we would simply wait for the Empire's response? Dr. Vasquez replied with a slight smile. Humanity has been expanding beyond the Sol system for decades. We have colonies, bases, and defensive installations throughout this region of the galaxy. The Empire no longer controls the space lanes in this sector. The Admiral felt another wave of shock. Not only had humanity defeated his fleet, but they had been secretly expanding their territory while maintaining the illusion of being confined to a single star system. The Empire's maps and territorial claims were based on completely false information. How large is your sphere of influence? He asked. Large enough, President Martinez replied. The Empire will receive detailed territorial information along with our message. We suggest you study it carefully before planning any future military operations in this region. As the 2 humans prepared to leave, Zexville called out one final question. What happens now? After I deliver your message and the Empire responds? President Martinez paused at the door. That depends entirely on how your leaders respond. Humanity is prepared for either peace or war. The choice belongs to the Empire. The door closed behind them, leaving Zexville alone with his thoughts. In 6 hours he would begin the journey back to Imperial space, carrying with him the most important message in the Empire's history. The species they had come to conquer had instead conquered them, not through force but through superior preparation. An impossible technology. The hunters had indeed become the hunted. And now the prey was sending the predator home with a warning that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy.